You're killing it at work. You're slaying on the weekend. But what's up with your money? If you're a woman and you're not investing, you could be losing about $100 a day. That's a problem, given that women typically earn less than men, retire with less than men, but tend to live longer. That's why there's Elvis, the investment platform for women built and run by women to close the gender investing gap.
Elvis helps women invest in specific real-life goals like buying a home, starting a business, treating yourself to a big splurge, or retiring comfortably. And they'll show you how long it will take to reach your goal. The financial plans are free. The key is to get started. Great Girlfriends listeners receive $100 towards your first funded goal when you get started at elvest.com/girlfriends. That's ELLEVEST. Invest like a woman at elvest.com/girlfriends.
Welcome to the Great Girlfriends podcast, where we discuss life, love, laughter, and everything in between. I am your host, Brandis Daniel.
I'm your co-host, Sybil Amuti.
And we have
a third Great Girlfriend.
Hey, Cecilia Nelson Hurt. I am so happy to be here. I love this.
Woo! We're so excited. Let me tell you, girlfriends, this is not your ordinary recording.
It's not.
Before we recorded,
We've had
tell them.
Oh my God, so we started off with lunch. So I work for LOreal, and so I invited the ladies to lunch. So we've been trying to have this lunch now for quite some time. I'm not going to look in any one direction, and it just so happens that we're having lunch on the day of the eclipse.
Yes.
So our lunch turned into an eclipse viewing party because my entire company was on the deck. Yes, I am fortunate and blessed enough to work in a building with a deck that faces, what is that, the Hudson River?
Yeah, the Hudson River.
So the Hudson and New
Freedom
Jersey
Tower.
and Freedom Tower. Yeah. It's a beautiful view. Yeah. And so we totally got lost and caught up in the mania. I said I wasn't going to do it. I'm an all or nothing girl.
We're grabbing glasses and
we're borrowing glasses. Then we did a tour of the building because we're at Hudson Yards, and this is a new building, and we love our building.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
And this is just a part of the day because we're going to end the day with a trip to the famous L'Oreal company store.
Yay!
So you ladies are going to love
guys, this office, oh
so
my goodness gracious.
And it wasn't like a hot dog lunch, let's be clear.
Oh,
no. She made it sound like we went to like a little small cafe. No, I had scallops. Brandis.
I had duck breast.
duck
breast with mushrooms and potatoes.
We know how to live. I mean, you work hard, right? And you spend, when you look at your office building, you should feel comfortable there, right? So you're here so many hours a day, and I think our company really put a lot of thought into this building. Mm-hmm. So we've been here about a year. Mm-hmm. It is a bit of a trek, right? So getting here, it's not where you would normally expect or as easily as for you to access. But once you're here, we want you to be comfortable. And so we want to have amenities, and so we did a tour. We got to see the tech center where women come in to test and get their hair color done, and
amazing.
You got to see the nail salon,
a whole nursing suite.
Right, and so the nail salon also has a beautiful view of the Hudson.
I mean, seriously,
forget Empire State Building, okay? We're just coming to L'Oreal to sightsee.
You can come whenever you want,
but don't be surprised tomorrow if you find me upstairs in the corner with my laptop.
It's beautiful.
We have it's Wi-Fi and touchdown space, right?
Listen,
that's all you need.
I need my little badge thing with the circle on it to work tomorrow.
I got you. They were like, "Are you back again?"
Because the catch is that this building is so secure.
Oh, it has to be.
You are right on the High Line in this building.
We have to be on the High Line, and there's just tourists and people on the High Line, and so you want to feel safe and secure.
Oh, it's secure, absolutely.
In the building,
I can't stop.
Well, one, I don't think we could find it, so that within of itself makes it quite safe. But no, I'm really excited.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
It's fantastic. So she's a spoiler. She like
she is.
And I wanted to say, because this was one of those experiences, even meeting you was in 2016 for our Great Girlfriends, our first inaugural What Women Want conference. You were a guest of the speaker.
Yes.
Our boo, our darling Tasha Adams Fox.
Yes.
And we met at the conference, and in that relationship panel, I had like this amen behind amen. I ain't gonna say that. I gotta go, but I don't want to leave. My husband's in the back. I'm running late. I gotta get to Queens. There was this whole situation, and I was like,
that was first of all, I raved about that conference, and I still do, and I still promote. I actually have a collection of my buttons, so I need to make sure that every year I have my large button. That was you ladies did an amazing job of creating such an atmosphere where women were up dancing, up sharing. It was church, it was Oprah, it was a little bit of everything, but it was also it wasn't superficial.
Yeah.
Right? It was authentic conversations. So we're having real conversations about what women want in relationships, what women want and expect from their girlfriends, right? And so I think about, even my husband and I went to see Girls Trip. So I've seen it twice now. So with the girls, and so with my husband, and we talk about checking on your strong friend and sisterhood, and you could have easily have been the premise or part of the Girls Trip experience.
We've heard this so many times.
Oh my God.
Will Packer, if you're listening,
you need
Mrs. Packer. Packers, we need to talk. We've heard that a number of times. And the movie was so fantastic. And you're so right, check in, plug in with your friends, pay attention to the cues, because in the movie there were so many things that everyone's life had been moving forward. But if you can, if you know your friend, you can look them in the eyes, you can see that there's more behind the story, and ask the questions and be there.
Oh my God, we can talk so much about that.
You're absolutely right.
Absolutely. So I'm not going to spoil anymore.
No, but that was our first meeting with you, and so we have been. I think the lunch today was timely because we're in the middle of this pivot series. And for those of you listening who know Cece, you'll understand why she's so important to this series. With what she does at work and what you do as a human, because what you do at work is just a reflection of your heart. It really is. It's just the human that you are, and you get to pay it forward through the work you do.
I love that.
That's what I think.
I truly feel blessed.
Yeah.
I really do.
Clearly.
That I found my passion and purpose, and I also get to get a paycheck, right? No, this is great. And again, it's doing things from a corporate perspective, but also doing things from a personal perspective as a woman, as a sister, as a human.
Yeah. I love it. We have a ton of listeners who are corp girls who are cringing at their jobs. We have some that are rock stars that are like, they have found their vibe and they are killing it. Then we have a crew of girls who are cringing because they're like, how did I get here and how do I get out? Or, what's my next? Or am I at the top? Have I reached the ceiling and I don't know how to break it? And then we have our entrepreneurs who are still trying to understand how to navigate. So everybody in this pivot series is not just for our entrepreneurial girls. We also talk to our corps, and we talk to, our retirees who are at that stage where they're like, pivot for real. You're reinventing. And I think each one of our guests has been able to create their own definition around the pivot and how significant it is. It's not just for one woman. We all kind of it takes shape in different ways depending on who you are. Right. But we wanted you to sort of open up that pivot toolkit.
Okay.
And I think when you tell everyone who you are and the role that you play here at LOreal and the role that you play outside of LOreal, they'll understand, okay, she qualifies to really carry the box and break out all the tools and explain to us as women what's important during that pivot.
Great.
So who are you?
So who am I? Okay,
but you have to tell us your pivot story too.
Oh, yes. Pivot
we
story.
want your pivot story.
So my pivot story is, so it kind of goes, I'm going to blend it, if you don't mind. So who I am right now.
She's such a professional.
Oh, no. I want to spoil again. I want to overblend.
See, that's why you get asked to do all these speaking engagements.
That's why.
That's the next conversation. No is a complete set. No. Full stop. So my pivot story starts about 9 years ago. So I started off my career, I would say, at Chase, which later became it's JP Morgan Chase Bank, and I did an analyst program and moved through a lot of roles at the bank. I was very fortunate there. I never saw myself as a banker. But I managed to craft out a career and stumbled into HR And because I was doing marketing and client marketing, and I was offered opportunity to come to the university relations team to do campus marketing. So here I am taking the skill set, right, from client marketing to campus marketing, moving into HR, not realizing because I wanted to do the campus activity. And so I had been in the campus role maybe 5 years doing a variety of different activities, from JP Morgan's brand on campus, their website, down to what pen or squeegee ball we were giving away. I learned how to recruit, because going to all these events, I'm spending time there once the event is set up. How can I be of use? So learning how to interview, and found that I had a passion for interviewing, particularly for people who look like me initially, right? And so I spent a lot of time at Howard and Spelman and FAMU and Morehouse, and ultimately was offered the opportunity to be the diversity relationship manager for JP Morgan at those 4 schools. So managing the endowment, managing our activities, and really helping students who were transitioning into the organization. The company made the decision to decentralize recruiting and give it back to all of the lines of business, meaning that they didn't need a specific team to do that role, and gave me an opportunity to take a package. So the pivot is, okay, while I was not a banker, here I had been at the bank for 13 years, and I only knew the banking industry. What could I do next? And so I made the decision to take my package and step out on faith and step out onto the universe and
How
trust.
hard was that?
That was really hard because anyone, like, if whatever I am, I'm that wholeheartedly, right? And so if I'm a cooker, I'm gonna cook to the best of my ability. If I'm a dancer, you're gonna know me. And so people who knew me knew that I was loyal to the bank, and I'm doing all the banking recruiting. And so for me to separate from JP Morgan was almost like I'm separating from who I am. Right?
Or so people thought.
Or so right, people thought, or maybe me as well thought. So now I don't work for the bank anymore.
Who am I?
Who am I? How does that define me? But also, because I had been there for so long, I never really had an opportunity to test my worth. Right, so I only updated my resume for each opportunity at JP Morgan, which was fine, right? Because if you looked at my resume, you saw me go from analyst, assistant, and grow in title as well as in responsibility. But I never shopped my resume outside. So one of the great things about when JP Morgan gave me my package, they gave me an executive coach who took a look at my resume and just reworded what I actually did so that it didn't sound like the words I had Googled and found. How do I say this? And, so it sounded more authentic to who I was. And I trusted the process. And I never worked with a headhunter or an agency, just through my network. And so when I think about my pivot toolkit, for me, first and foremost, is the network. And so I told a few people, didn't tell a lot. I wasn't on Facebook then. And I think LinkedIn was still pretty new. I had a couple of hundred people, which for some is not a lot, or a lot. And I told a few people, and I sent my resume out, and I did get some phone calls from a couple of banks. And I went for those conversations and started to realize, well, here's an opportunity. Do I want to work for a bank? Here I've done diversity recruiting. A lot of companies have diversity recruiting roles or recruiting roles. Let me be more open. And through my network, I had the opportunity to go to the YMCA, to their corporate headquarters. They had an HR opportunity. Turns out that the funding was pulled, but the woman who was in charge of HR, she still needed help. So she was like, if you'd like to come in for a couple days a week, I can use your help as a consultant. So I said, okay, that's not what I thought I'd be doing, but, fine. So in essence, I was home for a week.
Okay.
Right. So I took this package. I was like, okay, so what am I going to do with all this time? And the second Monday, I'm getting dressed to come in the city to work at the Y. Right. So
how did that happen again?
Network. A friend of mine knew the person at HR, and she said, "Hey, I know someone who's looking." And I was home for a week.
Wow, that's how valuable. So it's not just the quantity in the network; it's the quality of the network.
Quality of the network, and also it's speak it, right. So I told some people, and right. So I didn't just keep it to myself and say, "Oh, I'm not sure what I want to do." I told a couple of really good friends, and she happened to be like, I know someone over at the YMCA, and put my name forward, and the woman, on the strength of that relationship, trusting her, knew that I must be somebody who she should want to meet. And so I was there, and I worked 3 days a week because I didn't want to fully work, right? And I was enjoying my time there. And again, here's where my network comes in. I get a phone call from a friend of mine, from Justin, saying, "Hey, I heard that LOreal is looking for a diversity MBA recruiter." That's exactly my role at JP Morgan, like almost. And I said, "Wow, okay, that's a company that was on my list of companies. I knew what they were doing in the recruiting space. I really would love to work there. Why don't you take a look at my resume?" I said to him, "and let me know what you think." About an hour later, I get a phone call from the recruiter at LOreal. So Justin took a look at my resume, said, "Okay, whatever," and forwarded on. And I got a phone call. So, that's the great part of the story, that because of my network and because he knew me and he knew her and she trusted him, that got me the interview. What I knew was that I had looked at LOreal for a while, and I've been in banking for so long, I wanted to be successful. So I went on LinkedIn and looked up, I guess it's not Google if you're on LinkedIn, but I looked up to see who worked at LOreal, and I found a couple of people, and I emailed, and they were all receptive. And so one of the people that I emailed, he took the time to call me back.
So what did you say when you emailed?
I said, "Hi." No, I remember it was something like, "Hi, I see that you work at LOreal, and we might have had some people in common, and I'm coming in for interviews, and I'd love to pick your brain about your experience."
Like, our girlfriends are writing it down.
Right. I can hear them. I can hear them pen and paper. It was just like, and I really I wanted to pick your brain. It was really about your experience. Yeah. And so this person who called me back, and we never met. We met after I started to work for the company. He said, "Cecilia, I can see you spent a lot of time in banking. Whatever you do, don't come dressed as a banker." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Do not come in a navy blue suit and a gray suit. Have some fun. With some color. Show show who you are by what you choose to wear." I'm not going to say that that's why I got the job here, but I do believe that it's part of the packaging. Right. And so, back to the toolkit, being open to feedback, right? Because if I was so staunch in my belief that, I know how to come in as a banking professional woman, I know what to do, I wouldn't have been open to, okay, I can try a little color. I can wear something a little different.
Yeah, or you would have read different in the interview, because they're like, she was nice, but she's stiff.
She's stiff, right? Because again, people have their own perceptions, and again, I'm coming from banking, and could the people who are interviewing me see me in this in beauty if I came in dressed as a banker, right? So I wanted to show them I was so much more. Than where I worked or what I'm wearing. And so, taking the feedback from that conversation and incorporating it even into my interview, I think really led to my success in getting the job offer. So basically, from the time that I took my last day with JP Morgan, I might have been home for 2.5 weeks in total. And this was right when the markets were crashing, and Lehman Brothers was closing, and Bear Stearns was closing, and no one could, But you know what? The other thing that underarches or overarches it all is faith. I really trusted that if this is for me, then it's for me. And, what's for me will not pass me. Right. And so,
write that down, girl.
I know.
What's for me will not pass me.
If it's for me, it's not going to pass you. And so I really believe that. And so when I think about my pivot story, I really think that my network was very important. I talk about having a network, but also having a network that's green. Right. So like you think about, a network that is cultivated. I make sure while I have a lot of people who I'm connected to, I make sure to be very intentional and take advantage of those relationships and not just wait until I need them. So everyone who was involved in my story, except for the new person, I kept in touch with. prior to. I didn't just say, "Hey, I'm going to be out of a job on Friday. Can you help me?" It was like people who was part of the conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think that's important. I think a lot of times too many people, they wait until they think they need something from your network, but you always have something to offer.
Yeah,
you know what's so good about that though? I think about a lot of times people will stack a corner full of people, and like you said, call them when they need it. But you are a people person. We each should be people. We should be people. But I think that that's a big piece of it. It's that if you ever called with a need, I think that your network would stand up for you. But that's because you are intentional about building relationship. Just because, it's important. Good to be good and to connect and to grow.
And that good people should know other good people. And so, if I meet someone who's good on the left side and they don't know the person who's good on the right side, you two should know each other.
Yeah,
and that's giving advantage. And I think that's why your network is so green. That's one thing I can testify. I was telling Branda's in the bathroom break we had earlier on our tour. I was at the Working Mother, was the conference. And I did a fashion show. I was there because Ebby Antigua from Latina asked me to come be a part of the conference, part of the fashion show. I run into you.
No, you didn't even run into me. I saw you
saw
walk
me,
across the stage
or something.
And I was like, and I'm texting you like, girl, that's what it was. I just walked across the stage. Don't leave without seeing me.
That's what it was. And so that was like, oh, Cece's here. Okay, where are you? So we come. I told her I'm coming out, but she's got a seat reserved at her table. Here, you come sit here. No, between these two. And I have these people, and you got to meet her. This person, you got to meet her. You know her? Okay, I'm going to make sure I introduce you to her. She had in her mind that there were certain quality people that I needed to be connected with. And I'm like, sure, whoever, let's do it. Let's go. And it wasn't something that I had requested of you. That is just
that is who she is.
For humans to say,
plug in the room.
That is absolutely who she is.
It's like
people don't do that though. I don't know if you know that. Do you know that?
I don't see why, because keeping it all to myself, it doesn't help, right?
Yeah.
And so the room is powerful, but it's only powerful if you know who you're in the room with.
Yeah.
And who else knows that you're in the
room. Yeah.
Right? And so it's great to have the
tweetable
invite.
moment. I feel like I need to back up on that.
Because people also need to know you're in the room.
Yeah.
Right. It's a level
It's one thing, and again, we're at the point where we get to go to a lot of different events and we're in a lot of special rooms, but not everyone doesn't walk around with who they are and what their title is, and they don't leave with that. But you should know who you need to be connected to.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So we should all take some ownership.
Yeah.
Right. And so while from a cultural perspective, whether it's as women or the people who are of color, we don't have that legacy of people who played golf together. I'm not trying to call anybody who plays golf, but we don't have that legacy of where those conversations were happening. We weren't a part of that, right? So what can we do in this modern era to make sure that we build those relationships and build those networks? And
you're amazing at it. She absolutely is. As a matter of fact, last year, the first year we did the conference, one of our volunteers was there, and Cece overheard she needed a job and got her internship.
And you know what? And she got her internship, right?
Yeah,
her skill set and her resume. She just needed a door. She just needed a connection. Yeah. And sometimes you just need somebody to vouch for you.
Open a door. Yeah.
And I've been a recruiter, and recruiters get tons of postings, and they see the resumes and emails from everyone. It does make a difference for somebody to help you out.
Yeah.
So somebody who you know and trust to say, hey, I met this person. And, what was great about Cecilia, we stepped aside and we spoke. So when I sent her resume forward, I was able to say something more.
Right.
I was to say she recently graduated. She's interested in beauty for X, Y, and Z. So, and I sent it to a few of the recruiters here.
Wow.
So when they saw her resume and they saw my note, it helped them. Right. And then they gave her the opportunity, and she maximized her opportunity.
Yeah.
Right.
So good.
Awesome.
So that's a big piece of that toolkit. I love that because it's you have this green corner, right? So that's cultivating a relationship and having a value. But if I'm pivoting, what else? What are some of the other things that I need to consider or have, in my mind so that I can make a really strong decision?
Yeah. Hold on one second. Somebody is saying, what's a green corner?
Well, she said it's cultivated. It's right, so it's fertile.
Yeah. But I know one of our girlfriends is asking.
Oh, what?
So I'm asking for the girlfriend who's driving in her car.
A friend
who's like, what's green?
It's cultivated. It's ripe. It's not, it's not dry. It's not brown.
It's not brown.
It's not brown. Right. It's fresh, right? So it's fertile, and you know what's there. I don't really, I'll take a business card, but I'd rather just go and connect with you in social, right?
Yeah.
Because again, you're going to update your LinkedIn, and that's going to be way more current, right? And so green is knowing what you're doing now. People move around, they move roles.
Right.
I don't want to have a business card from a year or two ago, and you've moved roles and titles and everything else.
Right.
So I want to be able to, when I reach out to you, to know what you're doing.
Right. That's
Note to every girlfriend that's listening, because so many people neglect their LinkedIn.
Yeah, no,
and
you have to go into LinkedIn.
LinkedIn is a fertile network.
A lot of people have gotten jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, tons of people
and
have
are
gotten
watching
jobs.
You on LinkedIn and
people
saying,
are watching, and recruiters are calling a lot. I mean, bless the agencies, and I think they're important for certain types of searches and certain types of jobs. But a lot of companies have their own in-house teams whose job is to do the recruiting, so we can save on that expense of paying an agency. And if your LinkedIn, the profile is up to date, right? So make sure that it's truly reflective of your skill set, so that when that recruiter is looking for somebody in digital marketing, somebody in social media, or whatever the buzzword is that's known for your industry, it should be there in your LinkedIn profile so that they can find you. Right?
So good. So good.
So I guess the other thing that I think is important when I think about a pivot, that pivots are angles, right? So they're not always ladders, right? And so an angle just means I'm going to position myself in a different way. It might be the same role in a different company, or, it's really about that lateral move. And so sometimes people think that if I'm going to make a move, it should always be for the next title, the next, the compensation. Right. And in this day and age, moves don't happen in a linear fashion. And so I think sometimes people, women, men, whoever, they need to be open to what the actual opportunity will bring. And sometimes in order to set yourself up for the role 2 or 3 steps down the road, that second step might be a sidestep, right? It might even be a step back. Maybe there's something that you're missing, but trust that it will pay off, right? And so I think as you're thinking about your pivot, you need to be prepared for what that might look like, and it might not come packaged in that new offer for the corner office that you're thinking of. It could just be the cubicle down the end of the hallway. But if during that cubicle time you're developing a skill set, you're developing you're developing new relationships, so that when the office opportunity does become open, you're ready.
Yeah. So I love, before we got on the start recording the podcast, we're also talking about this new app. And it wasn't so much, the app is great, but it's like the story of sometimes what people miss in terms of networking and building relationships is building relationships right in the buildings that they're in. Right?
Yeah. So, I was telling the ladies that my company takes advantage of this app called Never Eat Alone. It's on the Apple Store. I'm not doing a promotion for it, but I think it's a great app. And so as I learned about the app, that it was started by a 21-year-old a woman who was working at a bank, a financial services bank, and took advantage of the access that she had to the executives and the people around her, and started booking a lunch with them. Right. She saw that in the beginning she didn't have that network. She wasn't having lunch with everyone. And she started to have those lunch conversations. And while in the beginning it was like, well, who's this person who's booking time with the president and the head of the division? They all took her meeting and they took her lunch. And ultimately her projects and her assignments moved at a faster rate because she was having those conversations that were important to her. And she realized the importance of that meeting, the importance of that conversation. And so she created this Never Eat Alone app at 21, right? And so, our company is using it and companies are using it. And so there's good in the app, but the moral of the story is this 21-year-old, saw an opportunity and didn't let, doubt or didn't let, fear stop her from saying, this could be something really good for business, and launched this app that now companies are using, right? So you can't let your doubt hold you back. So many times I think we all have an idea and we let it incubate a little too long. Mm-hmm. And while it's incubating, somebody else comes out with that same idea, and you're like, I had that idea. Mm-hmm. So just, you have to act on
Playing without, dancing without too long.
Exactly.
And I feel like sometimes on jobs, we're comfortable going to lunch with our peers, going to lunch with people who have the same title as us, who are in the same department with us. But when it comes to having lunch and conversations with people who are 2 levels above us, it's like a weird thing for people sometimes. And what I heard even in that story was when you kind of stretch, Tanisha. When you guys heard the podcast with Tanisha on it, but when you stretch in that way, like amazing things happen. Exactly. Now you're actually probably understanding like the full scope of like what the objective is of the company.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you're in your little cubicle, you're just getting bottom.
Right.
Yeah. And she wasn't intimidated by the hierarchy either.
Right.
She's like, she took that as an opportunity, because most of the time people say, is it okay to go through my boss to get to the next person? She's like, I just want to have an unintimidating lunch.
Yeah.
Right.
Most bosses aren't intimidated by lunch, are they?
No.
Yeah.
You can always have, and if lunch is too much of an adventure, to go out in search of, then go with coffee.
Yeah.
Ask,
people do take coffee lighter.
Yeah. But also you can't be comfortable, right? Yeah. If you're going to lean in for what you're asking for, then maybe that means that you're coming in at 7:30 for breakfast, right? So not everyone starts work at 8:30 or 9, depending on how high they are in their company. They could be coming in as early as 7 or 7:30. So maybe that's when you need to come in, or be willing to stay after work for that conversation that's important for you to have.
Yeah. That's good stuff. I love it. What do you think is the mindset of a strong pivoter?
The mindset of a strong pivoter. Resiliency is at their core.
Okay.
So they're going to stay focused, right? Laser sharp, right? With here's what I know that I want to do. I'm open to how it might look, right? So if I know that my end goal is X, then I'm going to stay focused on the steps that I need to take in order to achieve them. I think that the mindset is really being open. I think that's important because, again, you're open to whatever it is. If it's the opportunity, the idea, it might not look like what you thought it was going to look like. And so being open means that, okay, so maybe that opportunity that I asked for is going to look very different than how I thought it was going to look. And so I should be open to that and see the potential for success, right? And I think having that ability to keep your mind flexible and not be rigid, I think that's important.
I love that. Something I was thinking about as you were talking about that openness is not being caught up in people's perceptions of what you're doing. And I look at Bozoma St. John, who was at Apple, and from the outside, everyone's like, "Oh, she's got the fanciest, most fabulous job. Everything is amazing and dynamic." And now she's at Uber, and people are like, "What is she doing? Can she handle it? What's ahead for her?" But she has the eyes to see what she's walking into from a different perspective. She might see that as a great opportunity for her to really take her brand mind and sharpen up and shift the story and change the narrative. But if she were caught up in people's perceptions, she'd have been afraid because people would be like, "Girl, you are crazy." And sometimes we get so caught in like, what are people going to say?
What are people going to think? And it's not, and people aren't walking in your shoes, or living your it's your life.
That was a good old Memphis.
What do they know? What do they know? They don't know nothing.
But they don't know. And you can't. And the other thing is,
back to my diction. They just don't. They're unaware.
They just do not know.
They are unaware.
We need to educate them, or we need to not tell everyone.
That's so good. Yeah.
Right. So as much as I say you should share, you should be mindful, right? And if you have that friend who you tell, and every time you tell, they always come with the why it can't work. And we all have a friend like that. Girl, are you sure? Because you have a mortgage.
Safety patrol.
And again, I understand you're trying to be that guardrail to keep me, but you're also being that guardrail that's not letting me really excel. Right? You're holding me back. So as much as I will tell you, I'm fine for you to play the advocate and say, well, maybe not. Have you thought about this? I'm fine. We can have that conversation, but don't rain on every thought I have. Rain on every.
Right.
just like a vampire, just sucking out all the air.
Girl, you from banking. You know you're not stylish enough to be in beauty.
Exactly. All you got to know about that.
She's so fabulous.
Or that's a safe job. You should just stay there.
Which is so crazy. I can't imagine when you said that you were in banking.
I had no idea.
I went through an analyst program and everything.
All of this being tucked in a blue suit with little heel
with pearls.
With pearls.
I wore my little silver pearls.
No wonder you were
with
knitting.
No eyeshadow. She has like this beautiful pink eyeshadow now.
I look at my makeup back then. Yeah, I wasn't adventurous.
I can't imagine that.
The hair, the outfits. No.
Yeah.
No. But
oh my goodness.
You have to.
No offense to our bankers, by the way.
No, I know. It's also a different time.
Yeah.
It's also a different time. It was a while ago. I mean, but bankers still are bankers.
No,
they're still a standard.
My cousin
they're still a standard.
Yeah, there's some rules.
They're still a standard.
And beauty hat rules too. They're like, leave that whole thing you were doing. New regimen. Like, don't.
New regimen.
And that's like open. You knew the playing field.
Just show yourself. Yeah. Well, that's important, right? Because if you don't know the playing field, you have to find somebody who does know.
Mm-hmm. I feel like since we're here, we need to get some secrets. So,
boy,
we need secrets. We're literally sitting in the HR department of LOreal.
Okay.
and most of our listeners are women, and they're great girlfriends of all different backgrounds, and so there are things that hold us back as women. Like, there are just some core things that are specific to women that hold us back. Like, sometimes it's like little silly things, right? So, what are the things, like, as you're kind of, like, looking over the department and you see kind of, okay, they're doing the right thing. They're being groomed for success. Okay, like, are there, like, some small tweaks that we can make as women that will help us get ahead? Like, what are some things that you kind of see?
I think, I see more women doing it, so it's not all, right? It's never a blanket statement, but it's leaning into difference, right? And so small things, we just talked about who you go to lunch with, right? So, going to lunch with people who look different from you, whether it's by their gender, by their ethnic background. I know sometimes it's safety in being around the common factor, but you're not going to understand other conversations if you limit yourself to sameness, right? And so you want to know what's happening in every arena, right? And also just developing relationships. So while I work in diversity, and my husband loves to say, it's funny that you say you work in diversity. Diversity is not just what you do, it's who you are, right? And so being comfortable with people who are different is the only way that you can change your mindset, but also helps to just even in your own awareness. Right. And so I think as women are thinking about, their advancement and their climb, what I see happening is a lot of times, and I'll get a young woman who will have recently joined the company, and she might be a young brown woman, and she reaches out to me like, I want to connect with you. And I'll encourage her while I'm happy to take the conversation, but I'll give her names of other people who don't look like her. Right? Because, yes, you want to cling to the person who looks like you because you see your potential in them. Like, oh, I could be the next, if I'm a talk show person, I could be the next Oprah, so I want to spend some time with Oprah. But, maybe there are other people you should be thinking about. And so as I, whenever there are interns or new hires and I'm helping them to establish a network, I'm very intentional to make sure that the 5 names I give them are different across various fields.
That's so good.
Right? Because
you're so good.
You guys are good.
We're being listening.
We're just gazing. We're like,
I love it.
So good.
I love it. But no, it's important.
But this is that understanding. I think something that's so big about you too that I think every woman can take away is that advocacy. And I think that it's something that you carry as like part of your personal culture. This is part of my DNA. I'm an advocate for people that I know and I see. I want to make sure I'm adding value however I can. And I see how you're doing. That's an intention that you've set in this building that will take them so much further than you might ever see. You can leave the building, but the influence of that advocacy will rest with them.
I'd love to think that.
Yeah,
it is the truth.
Absolutely.
Because those relationships will help further everyone's advantage, everyone's career, and they will learn to become advocates. And I think for women, I think that's a big piece of that pivot is not just thinking about yourself, but still advocating for other people.
Advocating for other people. And also for the opportunity that's not for you. Right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, we're particularly in the corporate arena, you tend to get phone calls every now and then from a headhunter, recruiter for an opportunity. And the opportunity might not be for you. And so you say, no, I'm not interested. I'm happy. But think about somebody else who that opportunity could be for. Perhaps your role was meant to pass that on to somebody else, right? And so it's not every opportunity that comes your way is for you. I do agree, but how can you help someone else with that?
Yeah.
Right? Because if they're looking for a person, I know people.
Yeah.
So maybe the person, it's not me, but maybe it's, it could help someone else.
Oh, I love it. This is another question I have. I want to know, what do you tie to your self-esteem? What gives you esteem as a woman? How do you know? How do you know that you're on point? Like, how do you feel value?
So, how do I feel value?
I feel like your compass is on this whole other vibe.
No, for me, it's just feeling like I can make a difference, right? And what gives me is again, and part of our conversation at lunch is, as women, we still struggle with, imposter series, like, am I worthy enough to be here? Does my voice matter, right? And so we all struggle with that, or some of us struggle with that still. But even within that, knowing that, you're here for a reason, and that you can make a difference. And so for me, I'm always looking for opportunities where I can make a difference, even in the slightest way. And so one thing that I know for a fact, while I do not know everything, and I don't even need to know everything, I have Google for that. But even more so, I don't need to be the person in the room who has the answer. I need to be the person in the room who knows the person who has the answer. So as I sit in the room, when somebody says, "Oh, we're trying to do X," I'm like, hold on, let me think about it. I think I know someone who can. And so I've added value to both of those people because I got the answer.
Yeah.
I got the opportunity for the other person, but I didn't need to know the answer. I just needed to know who could possibly know.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot of energy to want to be the person who has all the answers all the time.
Oh, Lord, yes, indeed.
Right? And so that's not the role that I play. Right? I'm going to figure it out. Like, somebody in my network might know this, or even I think we were trying to get in touch with a celebrity, right? I won't put names out, and so I emailed like 5 people who I strategically knew. One of the 5 would know, and somebody came back with here's her agent. That's all I needed. And it wasn't for me; it was for somebody else. And so I was able to come back with here's the phone number of the agent.
Your great girlfriends,
and that's a great girlfriend. That's
what
a
I think.
connection.
So many times when we're in that pivot, people get so afraid because they've tied their esteem to their title, or they've tied it to their company. And they're like, well, this company reflects my credibility or my value. And what I see is you've detached yourself from the title, but yet your personal dedication to influencing people's lives in the way that you do it. And it's like, it doesn't have to be relative to a title or a company or a moment.
And here's the thing about that. Then it's kind of like, when somebody's real thirsty, they're not really attractive, right?
Right. You call it, I mean, Brenda's taught me
thirst bucket. When they're thirst bucket.
Okay, that's a new one for me.
Yeah, that's her word, thirst bucket.
Okay, thirst bucket. You're going to get me in trouble because I'm going to go and say that. And my daughter's going to be like, Mom. And with the look, don't say that again.
Don't say that again.
Don't say that again.
But when somebody is thirsty, they're not that attractive. And I feel like you, in the position that you're in, the role that you're in, the way that you carry it, like, this is who you are in or out the doors of LOreal, right?
Yeah.
It makes you attractive to any brand, Absolutely. And so I think the challenge with being so tied to your title and to your company is that you kind of look like a thirst bucket. And it's like, it's just like,
oh my God. Apologies to the thirst buckets.
They're sitting in their offices like, is that me? Am I a thirst bucket? If you're looking around right now, it might be you.
It might be.
But when you just carry like who you are, like that's just who you are, like in
it's
out of your company.
You know what? It's a different level of confidence.
It's a different level of confidence, and it's attractive.
It's so good.
And it's attractive. It makes, if somebody was to say, you know what, I need somebody in HR, and they start like Cece, because that's just like who you are. Like you're not like tied to any company, like in terms of your identity and
it's about, for me, it's about, again, the legacy and the difference.
Yay!
Right?
You said one of my favorite words.
Oh my God, that was my favorite word. No, I'm at that point. It's
that's my word.
Legacy. What will people say of me? What the difference that I made? I think the difference is so important.
Yeah.
And you build it now. You don't build it later.
You don't wait, right? You do it now, right? So you do it with the dollar that you have. You're not going to wait until you have, lotto or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
If there's something that you want to do it now.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's the legacy. It's the difference. It's the impact. It's mentoring. It's giving back.
Mm-hmm.
It's connecting.
And having fun, too, because the other thing about you, Cece, is anyone who, if you don't follow her on Instagram, we'll give you her tag later, but she loves knitting. That's first and foremost. Like, that is something that you're super passionate about. You love travel.
Hobby.
You love people. You love culture. You love integrating all of that. And you carry all of that. And it's this light. And it's one of those things that kind of draws people to you, I think, is that you're all of it. It's not a piece of you. It's not a fraction. I think everyone here probably knows you knit. You know you love it and find yarn. I don't pass I don't pass yarn and not think of you. Yeah, I text you like, hey, I passed some yarn, and you were.
It's funny because people do that. Like, either they're tagging me on other things. I'm like, you know what? I guess that's part of my brand, so I have to go with it. I have to go with it
because it's you sharing your world, and your world just kind of gives it back to you. It's like you're on my mind, you're on my brain. If I see this, I think of you, and I think that's one of the things that made your pivot so valuable. Like you said, Justin was just like, I just.
Passed it on.
Passed it on.
It
makes you credible. It makes you trustworthy. It makes you valuable, not just in HR, wherever you go. You plug all of that in, and you can pivot. You can keep swiveling if you want.
To this podcast.
You can just swivel.
I'm thinking, I am confident. I am right. I am strong.
You are.
Say it to yourself.
Say it. Know it. I'm serious.
It's
just you plug that in anywhere. Anyone would want to take you and have you around, and I know we haven't been together long, but I'm going to ask you to be my great girlfriend.
We are girlfriends.
Everyone would see you and gravitate to that. I think that's probably one of the big pieces why she carries that toolkit part so well, because it's a whole kit. It's not just one thing you do on a pivot. It's like, all right, let me open my kit. I need to pull out this ingredient. To do this in this moment. And you got it. You got it, ladies.
This is awesome.
This is so good. So if they want to socially keep up with you, where can they keep up with you?
So on LinkedIn, Cecilia Nelson Hurt, and on social media, it's Creative Ceci. So Creative CECI. I think I'm creative. I'm trying to curate this life. Just having a good time. I mean, this is it. This is not a rehearsal. So I want to do the things. The goal is to think about that bucket list and let's get some items done. Right?
Yeah.
Like I don't want to wait. So travel now, buy the shoes, eat the cake. Do it all as much as you can.
Right.
Oh, I love it.
Thank you, Cece. Thank you, Cecilia. I should call you Cecilia.
We should call her Ceci because that's what it really. We're so country.
No,
but
everyone says Cece. No,
okay, cool.
Is it Ceci?
It's both.
It's Ceci.
It's both.
We'll murder some names.
We murder names.
No, it's I'm from Hispanic. It's
Ceci.
It's right, okay. and then Cece. It's fine.
Okay.
Cece, Ceci, me,
Ceci.
Not
Thank
Gloria.
You so
just not what Starbucks does.
No, they always seem to find a new name for you.
Okay.
I know.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me, ladies. This was awesome.
This series has been so good. I'm telling you, each person that has come on brought such a different angle to it. And I think we were really guided to know who to bring in and why. And this was perfect. I think this is
so perfect.
Oh, such a good mix.
Well, this was a pleasure for me.
Yeah.
A nice break to my day.
I can't wait for everyone to hear this. So we always thank our husbands at the end. Kwaku, thank you so much. I had this nightmare last night, y'all, and I woke up to a bright, happy husband, and I was happy. The end. Oh, good Lord.
And I want to thank my husband, Rich Daniel.
Oh, that's so cute. Well, I have to thank Jerome Hurt. He is amazing. Jerome is so good. He's home today, and he interrupted me in the middle of a meeting, and so I answered the phone with the attitude. I'm in the meeting. He's like, what kind of pickles is it that you want me to get again? I'm like, hold on 1 second. It's this. So the fact that he thought enough to know that I have a preference.
Yeah. Right.
And he called to make sure he got the right one.
Right.
So I love him.
Oh, yeah.
He's my heart.
Yes, and we thank our kids, Sam and Dylan. Thank you so much.
And thank you to Miss Sky, who hopefully is with her granny.
She's not the last.
Or she's the last one at daycare. That's a whole other story. And I'm going to thank Miss Atrice, who's been a wonderful daughter and friend.
Yeah,
so good. I want my kids to be friends one day. And thanks to all of you great girlfriends for trusting us as your go-to source for everything life, love, and laughter. You can listen each Wednesday on iTunes, Stitcher, Podcast Republic, Podcast Bean, Blueberry, and Spotify.
And Spotify.
I keep forgetting Spotify.
Mm-hmm.
SoundCloud.
Yeah.
And every other podcast.
Girls and girls.
Yeah. Every other podcasting service. Make sure to check us out on social.
On our Twitter.
The _great GFS.
Instagram.
The Great Girlfriends.
Facebook.
The Great Girlfriends.
And please join our Facebook group, which is The Great Girlfriends.
Yes, over 16,000 strong. Yay!
Great Girlfriends.
Yay.
Make sure you post your questions online. You share with your friends.
Keep listening and keep being a great girlfriend.
I'm Sybil.
I'm Brandis.
I'm Cecilia.
And we're signing off.
Peace.